Hello there. Last night I went to see the latest Godzilla movie and now I want to talk about it. Godzilla Minus One is a Japanese action horror that follows a monster emerging in the aftermath of World War II. Godzilla, a giant mutated lizard, begins wreaking havoc on Japan and its inhabitants. The film was written and directed by Takashi Yamasaki and stars Ryonosuke Kamiki as Shikishima, the kamikaze pilot, Minami Hamabe as his love interest Noriko, and Sakura Ando as his friend Sumiko. The story is a simple linear hero's journey with a few big emotions, lots of destruction, and a healthy dosage of stoicism. It's centered around a kamikaze pilot named Shikishima and his friends taking on Godzilla in an attempt to save the city and the people they love. The story is set in Tokyo post-World War II with all of the destruction caused by the American firebombings put on full display. Godzilla appears in the wake of the war and after getting a taste for blood, starts attacking every ship in its sight until it finally arrives at the coast of Japan. With the Americans hoping to avoid any further conflict, the locals are left to contend with Godzilla using whatever military arms haven't been decommissioned. The cast boils down to a lot of simple characters with one-note appearances. There's a large group of former soldiers that take on Godzilla and have similar stoic personalities. They support Shikishima in his journey and are led by the scientist Kenji Noda. Then there's Shikishima's family and friends, his lover Noriko, her daughter Akiko, and their neighbor Sumiko. Noriko is a carefree person who likes to help other people. Sumiko is a heartbroken widower who chastises Shikishima and Noriko while helping them out. Now on to Shikishima himself. He's a former pilot and soldier who is serious and disciplined. He goes through life quietly but is held back by the failures of his past. Throughout the film, we see him struggle to stand up against Godzilla while attempting to save the people around him. Last but not least, you have Godzilla, a mutated lizard that appears from deep within the ocean. There isn't much known about him beyond how destructive he is. With nuclear heat breath and a giant hulking body, it smashes through city blocks like sandcastles and wipes out big military targets with a single huff. The visual journey is broken down into two parts, the bits with Godzilla and the human parts of the story. The human parts are shot in a few basic locations and involve the actors conversing in highly dramatic dialogues. They're shot well and capture a lot of good emotional work. The parts with Godzilla in them are a mixture of CGI and reaction shots. The CGI involves Godzilla destroying a city and some boats and attacking the different people on the ground nearby. The reaction shots are close-ups of the actors' faces as they witness his carnage. For music, you have a lot of dead air with a few instrumental tracks during emotional moments and during monster sequences. The music is simple orchestral-style instrumentals that help support the mood of a given scene. The soundtrack as a whole has a habit of trying to draw out emotion, and it does a good job of making the film feel very stoic and dramatic at the same time. Okay, now for the review. The writing was incredibly basic and boring. It doesn't explain anything about Godzilla, and Godzilla operates inconsistently throughout the film in a nonsensical manner. At times, it's a sentient beast that deals with the biggest threat first, and at others, it's a simple-minded animal that can be led into basic traps while barely defending itself. The film's story includes a lot of stupid moments that make zero logical sense, and it straight up pulls a miracle out of its ass at the end. Its characters were one-note and boring too. There's a lot of stoicism and extreme emotions, but it's all one emotion from different people. There is a good amount at stake, and the story does see a lot of action and destruction, but it all happens to cities you know little about and unnamed people you never met. It's a little hard to get emotionally invested. The cast does a good job of playing their parts and trying to humanize their characters with the brief moments they're given to do so. As I've said, there are a lot of stoic performances, so they don't get to show much emotion beyond fear, bravery, and a bit of humor in the face of death. For standout performances, you have Ryonosuke Kamiki as Shikishima. He nails the sullen attitude and regretful demeanor that his character is meant to carry, and when it comes time to deal with the emotional outbursts, he does them in a highly dramatic way. Visually, the film is excellent. The journey is crystal clear, easy to follow along with, and full of destruction and mayhem. The CGI is top-notch and quite realistic looking with good textures and movement. The sets and locations they filmed on got the setting across in a clear manner and provided a good backdrop for the emotional story. They also did a fantastic job of the action sequences. They're always suspenseful and full of excitement. There were a lot of good explosions, especially the ones from Godzilla. Sound-wise, the film is kind of barren. The soundtrack doesn't make much of an appearance and just barely supports the story on an emotional level. It does an okay job during the peak sad moments, but other than that, it's just generic tension sounds and repetitive action music. It doesn't make much of an impact, you won't remember any of it 10 minutes after finishing the film, and it wasn't interesting to listen to. Overall, Godzilla Minus One does a good job of the visual journey, and its cast does a good job of their roles, but the writing is basic monster movie stuff. The soundtrack was weak and ineffective too. If you really like monster movies, give this one a try for the visuals. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Bye bye.